There are moments when something very small opens a door inside you, not a big event. The sound of a familiar song playing somewhere in the background. The way late afternoon light rests quietly on the edge of a table, and without warning you are no longer only in the present moment. You are not just remembering, you are feeling the past as if it were still alive inside you. This happens more often as time. Attention, they simply arrive, quietly. And when they do, they bring more than images. They bring emotion, warmth, weight. Sometimes even a quiet ache you cannot quite name. You may wonder why certain memories stay so vivid while often carry more than what happened. They carry parts of us that are still unfinished, and seeing this clearly can change how you live with them. Memories do not always come when you ask for them. Most of the time, they don't. They arrive in their own quiet way, unannounced, uninvited. A faint smell from something old, a song you haven't heard in years, a small object left untouched on a shelf, and suddenly something shifts. Not outside, inside. You pause without meaning to. A moment opens that you didn't choose, and the past steps closer without asking. Not the whole past, just one moment. A specific moment that seems to carry more weight than others. You didn't search for it. You didn't call it back. It found you. And that is what makes it feel different. Because memory doesn't follow logic. It doesn't obey will. It moves by something deeper than intention. And not all memories return this way. Many fade into the background of time. They blur, they soften, they lose their shape, but some do not. Some stay clear, sharp, alive, so alive that for a moment the past feels closer than the present. Not like a story. You'll remember more like a feeling that has not finished moving through you. And that is where something important begins. Because not every memory returns for the same reason. Not every memory has the same weight, and often it is not the biggest events that stay with you. It is rarely the milestones, or the celebrations everyone remembers. More often it is something quieter, a moment that seems small at the time, a short conversation that ended without fanfare, a familiar voice you did not know you would miss. The way light fell across a kitchen table on an ordinary afternoon. The sound of footsteps in a hallway that once felt full. These are the things that stay. Not because they were large, but because they were felt. Memory does not live only in what happened. It lives in how it felt to be there. And feeling has a way of leaving an imprint, quiet, but lasting. So, while many moments fade with Timoth, ones that carried emotion remain. They do not always return as clear pictures. Sometimes they return as a mood, a warmth, a heaviness, a softness you cannot explain. And this is why something very ordinary can feel more vivid than something that looked important on the outside. Because the heart remembers differently than the mind. The mind keeps details, but the heart keeps feeling. And as the years pass, this becomes more visible. Certain memories do not fade. They settle deeper. They live quietly in the background of your days, and they rise not when you try to remember, but when something inside you is ready to feel them again. And the older you become, the clearer this quiet pattern begins to show itself. Memories are not only what you see when you close your eyes. they are also what remains in the body and in the heart. A memory is rarely just an image. It carries a feeling, and that feeling does not fade as quickly as the picture itself. Sometimes it is warmth, a quiet joy that still glows when you remember. Sometimes it is longing, a sense that something ended before you were ready. And sometimes it is regret, not the kind that shouts, but the kind that lingers. The words you never said, the moment you didn't know was the last one. The time you believed there would be more. These are not only memories, they are unfinished feelings. And unfinished feelings have a way of staying close. They do not return to punish you. They remain because something inside them has not yet settled. You may notice it in small ways. The way your chest tightens at an unexpected sound. The way your hands pause when you touch something old. The way a quiet room suddenly feels too full. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs of something still moving beneath the surface. This is why certain memories stay alive long after time has passed. Not because the past is stronger than the present, but because the feeling within it is still alive in you. And when that feeling remains, memory does not fade. It waits quietly, not demanding, just present. And in this way, memory becomes more than mine. Remembering, it becomes a quiet mirror, not only of what happened, but of what still lives inside you. But memories do not return only to show you what was. When a memory returns, it does not only show you what happened, it shows you something about yourself, like a quiet mirror held up gently without asking. You are not only seeing a place or a person or a moment, you are seeing what once mattered too. You, what you protected, what you hoped for, what you held without realizing how tightly you were holding it. And in that reflection, there is often a soft ache, not only because the moment is gone, but because it shows you who you were when you lived. It docked the version of you who believed certain things would last, who did not yet know what would change. Sometimes this realization arrives in small ways. You find an old photograph and feel something shift quietly in your chest. You walk past a familiar place and feel a version of yourself standing there for a moment. You hear a sound you haven't heard in years, and feel time thin out for a breath. These moments do not arrive to hurt you. They arrive to remind you of what once lived deeply in you. Because when you look back, you do not only see what you had, you see what has changed, and the space between what was and what is can feel very quiet, not empty but wide. And in that space you begin to notice something important. The memory is not only about the past, it is showing you what still lives inside you now, what still matters, what still moves you, what still feels unfinished. And when you begin to see this clearly, something subtle starts to open. There comes a point when the way you relate to memory begins to change, not by force, not by decision, but by a quiet shift inside you. For a long time, it may have felt as if there were only two choices: to hold on or to let go, to keep the past alive or to leave it behind. But memory does not live in extremes like that, and the more you try to control it, the heavier it becomes. Holding too tightly turns memory into a burden. Pushing it away only brings it back with more force. But when you stop doing both, something unexpected begins to happen. The memory does not disappear. It simply settles, like an old photograph resting quietly on a shelf, like a chair left empty in the corner of a room, still present, but no longer demanding. And in that space you begin to notice something gentle. A memory is not meant to be held tightly. It is not meant to be erased. It is meant to be understood, not clung to, not rejected, simply seen. When a memory is allowed to exist without struglight's edges begin to soften. The ache no longer feels so sharp. The weight no longer presses in the same way. The past no longer pulls you as strongly. And yet nothing is lost. What mattered still matters, but it no longer controls the space you live in. And in that quiet shift, something inside you begins to ease. Not all at once, but slowly, softly, and this is where something new begins to open. There comes a moment when the way you hold the past begins to change, not because the memory disappears, but because the weight around it quietly shifts. The memory is still there, the faces remain, the voices remain, the feeling has not vanished, but something in the way you carry it has softened. The past no longer pulls at you the way it once did, and in that space a different relationship begins to form, not pushing the memory away, not gripping it tightly, just letting it exist without asking it to be different. This is where a quiet peace begins to appear, not suddenly, not loudly, but gently, like a room after the noise is gone, like an evening when nothing needs to be fixed. You may still remember what you once lost. You may still feel what once mattered, but it no longer defines the way you move through today. The memory remains as part of you, but not as something that must be carried every moment. And there is a quiet relief in that, because peace does not come from forgetting. It comes from no longer being at war with cloth, what remains. And when that happens, past no longer stands in front of you. It walks beside you, quietly, without weight, like a familiar presence that no longer needs anything from you. And as you sit in the stillness of an ordinary evening with the light soft against the wall sand, nothing asking you to be anywhere else, you may notice something simple. You are here, still here, breathing, present, and in that quiet awareness a deeper gentleness begins to take root. Memories are not the enemy. They are not here to take something away, and they do not need to be erased or brought back to life. They can simply remain as they are, a quiet part of you, neither heavy nor demanding. Some memories stay clear, some even grow stronger as the years pass. This does not mean something has gone wrong. It only means you have lived deeply, you have felt deeply, and certain moments touched something in you. That does not fade easily. There is nothing broken in that. You do not need to forget the past to be present now, and you do not need to return to it to honor it. It can sit beside you without pulling at you, like a quiet presence that asks nothing and takes nothing. And sometimes that is enough at the end of an ordinary day, when the room is still and the light softens on the wall. May notice a simple truth. You are still here, breathing, aware, alive, and in that quiet awareness, there is already a kind of peace. If something in these words met you gently today, you are welcome to leave a few quiet words below. Many people walk this part of life without ever speaking about it. Sometimes simply knowing someone else understands is enough. And if it feels right, you may stay a little longer with another reflection here.